Okay, so today I have a lesson for you about characters. We're going to talk a little bit more about characters and about how characters can be really complex. And you have to pay attention to that when you're reading your stories to really kind of understand them, because characters aren't always just one way. When you were younger and you read easier books, characters generally just stayed one way all the way through your book. So if you were reading a book about Spot the dog, Spot always acted the same way. So if it was a book about Spot going to school, he was happy, 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 happy all the way through the book. If something was sad going on, he was sad, 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 sad all the way through the book. So as you get older though, characters get more complex. And so throughout a story, they're going to change, and their attitude changes, their behavior changes, the way they act changes, their character traits even change. So we have to pay attention to that when we're reading. And notice when those changes happen. So I have an example for you here, and I made a board for you about how characters can be complex, so complex characters. And I picked Sistine because she was really very complicated in our story. And so I wrote here, what words describe the character? So I made a character web. And I thought of all of these words that I thought kind of described her. I said rude, sometimes she could be rude. Kind, she could be kind. Angry, sometimes she was angry. Bossy, we certainly know that one. And even brave. So those were the words that I put down that I thought really described Sistine. But you can't just give words, you also have to back it up. You know, Mrs. Reading is always saying, oh yeah, prove it. You have to give some proof too. You have to really think about how you can back up your claim. So if I wanted to say that I really think Sistine can be rude, I'd come up with an example. So here's the example that I came up with. I said, well, I think that she was really rude when she told the whole class that they were ignorant. Do you remember when she said that? She said all the people in the South are ignorant, even the teacher. And the teacher didn't like that very much, right? That was pretty rude. So that showed that that was one way that she acted. One of her traits was being rude. I also said that I thought she was brave. Yeah, I thought she could be really brave. And so I put this one on my sticky. I said when she stood up to the bullies, both on the bus and at school. Remember it on the bus when she first got on, those bullies were being mean to her, those two brothers. And then even at school, they would chase her and she wouldn't run away from them. She would fight. She'd be swinging her arms and legs and kicking, and she always got her dresses torn and got scratched up, right? So she was pretty brave with all those bullies. Now we know she was bossy, definitely bossy, lots of times. And on my sticky, I wrote many times when she told Rob what to do. She was always bossing Rob around, always telling him what to do. And I put one example here about letting the tiger go. Remember, she was just absolutely sure that that's what they should do. And she was pretty bossy about it. She was like, no, we're going to let him go. This is what we're going to do. Get the key. We're going to let him go. She was really bossy about that. Rob didn't even know quite what to do about that problem, right? So that's an example of her being bossy. Kind and angry. Let's see what I have here. I'm going to do the angry one first. I put down, do you remember that time when she was at Rob's and they had been out in the forest, in the woods, and her mom came to get her, and she had Rob's clothes on, and her mom came to get her in the car, and she got really mad at her mom about her dad leaving, and she was kind of yelling at her mom, and all of her anger and sadness kind of came out, and she was yelling at her mom and saying, it's your fault he left, you're the liar. And she had that really angry outburst. We saw it kind of a different side of Sistine then. So that's why I put down that angry side of her. She could get pretty darn angry, even at her mom. And then the last one I put down was kind. This was a side we didn't see very often. We didn't see this very often with her. She showed it like subtly, like small pieces of it through the book. But I'm thinking about that time when they were walking back through the woods after they let the tiger go. And she reached out and she grabbed Rob's hand. Do you remember that? And he felt that feeling of joy. He felt that feeling of, I actually have a friend. And she was so kind to him. She wasn't bossing him. She wasn't mad at him. She was just being really kind to him. And then after they shot the tiger and they were burying him, and she was saying such nice words and really comforting him. So she could be a really kind friend too. So look at all of the different spectrum that this goes. It goes from angry to kind to rude to bossy to brave. That's quite a complex character that Sistine is. So I wonder if you're reading your book today, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take a look at your character. And maybe in your journal, you could do some jotting. Maybe you could even make a web like this, talking about how your character is complex and maybe some of the different ways they act, some of the character traits or some of the emotions that they have that show that they're a complex character too.